the trouble, isn't it? So
I'd like today.
you do the best you can, but sometimes it just... Usually you become the face of the problem.
Welcome councillors, staff and gallery. I open the October meeting as we meet here in the spirit of respect and cooperation and collaboration. We pay tribute to those who've come before us as we seek to grow our understanding and connection and knowledge and our heritage and our culture. We pay respect to the traditional custodians of these lands and the European settlers whose customs and traditions have been passed down through 6 generations. Councillors, we're all present, so there's no apologies. We'll move on to 2.1.1, and that is the confirmation of the council meeting held on Tuesday the 17th of September 2024 at 5:30. Councillor Priest and seconded Councillor Hearn. All those in favour? Carried. There's no petitions, and I note that Councillor Priest, you need to leave at 7 p.m, so hopefully we're not far behind you. Anyway, we'll see how we fare. We'll move to item 3.3.1, that's Councillor Hearn, notice of motion, removal of trees, and there's been a
slight alteration.
Further information, please.
The motion. I'd like to say that it's just. I spoke to Janine earlier. I'd like to set it up in that order instead of just.
I'll just ask if there are any questions first, or else I'll swing to. Okay.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move that we, or not move, ask the chamber that we set the motion up in that particular, in 2 sections rather than just 1 section.
It's the same motion.
It's the same motion, but can we make it, I'd like to make it in 2 separate sections, or
You want 2 motions?
2 motions,
two
if
motions.
that's the case.
So you're going to deal with
One
one tree at a time.
Speak to them, the lot as a vote, but just have them so that they can be voted on separately then.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the separation, but it's your motion, so speak to it then. Yep.
So is this where I start then?
Sorry, just to ask a question, if I just...
Yep.
You asking to split that into 2 motions?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Or you could vote on 1A and then vote on...
well, one A and B.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I'm going
Mr.
to get
Mayor.
some clarification from the CEO. Yep.
You can put up the motion as you see fit. It's a notice of motion, so it should follow the notice. However, I don't see any specific benefit one way or the other, because you've got to debate each individually if you do it that way anyhow. You can't debate both and then vote with 2 different resolutions. So you either have 2 resolutions and 2 debates, then I need to check whether that's actually legit under the motions.
Well, I'm going to make a ruling that the notice of motion's been put out in the public arena, and I'm going to ask you to speak to the one that's been publicised. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start by saying that as an elected member, I made it clear that I was going to help the rate.
I probably just want you to speak what your notice of motion is, and then we'll get a seconder,
Okay.
and then I'll let you talk to it.
I'd like to move.
Stay with the original one.
Where is it up on the... Oh, the council instruct the Chief Executive Officer to remove trees at both 44 Angus Street, Tanunda, and 13 Jonathan Avenue, Nuriotba.
So that's moved by Councillor Hearn and seconded by Councillor Priest. Councillor Hearn, proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to start by saying that as an elected member, I made it clear that I was going to help the ratepayers to the best of my ability in persevering, being prompt, caring, concise, truthful in what I could do for them. When the Barossa Council moved its work depot from Anguston, they removed many large gum trees, leaving one at the entrance of what is now a housing estate. Oh, sister-in-law, that's all right. Thought I'd turned it down. This tree needed a large limb removed, which went about 10 metres over the house of Mr. Brad Southam. An arborist was of the opinion that this removal could severely harm this magnificent gum. After much negotiating, the limb was finally removed and the tree is as good as ever, despite a fire being lit in the tree many years before. Council has put a new footpath in Corella Street, that's about 12 months or so ago, near Iutba, removing mature trees on the eastern side of the street and replacing the old with the new trees. No complaints here. Another example is at Ninnis Court in Anguston, where gums similar to those on Mengi Road, Tanunda, have been causing some owners to be locked into the property with fallen branches on numerous occasions. The trees on Mengi Road were cut down, leaving a stump several metres high and left to shoot again. The Ninnis Court residents wanted the same, but no was the answer. The two trees in my motion have their own problems, but let's start with Angus Street. It is patently obvious that this 48-year-old tree is making concrete crack in the driveway and in front of the lounge room window. From time to time, the gate has to be adjusted for it to close. Staff have been on this case since 2018 and perhaps a little before, and no solution has been forthcoming. It was trimmed previously and the owners have offered to pay for the removal. This was declined, so both have been declined, so even trimming the tree was declined recently. And the only way now is for an arborist to see the tree, but this will not solve the problem, as it is certainly healthy, although nearing the end of its life. Mr. Badras is not in a position to pay for this, as he is a pensioner. And the Jonathan Avenue property has large roots heading under his home as thick as my arm, and it's the thick bit. Photos previously forwarded to council by me. A trench was approved to be dug along the boundary, which was completed 2 weeks ago. Several large roots were found heading towards the house. So this may stop the problem for a while, but I've been told that this is also a temporary solution. The Nurippa Bowling Club also had a problem of being able to remove the trees alongside their green. But after showing that in time that the roots would have affected the new synthetic green with no way to fix the problem other than digging up the green and starting again, common sense prevailed and a fabulous new parking system and 4 gardens were installed at the considerable cost. Glenn and his team are to be thanked for this great outcome. Similarly, the 2 trees in question are affecting the 2 homes in my motion and possibly affecting resale value if and when they are put on the market. The owners of Angus Street wants to build a fence with a concrete base and in time this would surely crack as well. Mr. Badger's health is now being affected because of the worry, and this is a concern to me. We are supposed to be of assistance to ratepayers, not simply saying no to a policy which can and should be negotiable. Policy is a guideline and can be changed if and when desired by us as councillors, and over the 15 years this has happened on many occasions. So may I finish by asking, if this was your residence, how would you react if this was your situation? Thank you, Mayor.
I think he's all our residents, not just yours. Councillor Priest. Any further comment? Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the relevant director for pointing us towards the legacy policy statements. I took particular note of that statement, and I was quite surprised when I read it. I knew about the engineer's report side of things, but then I read about, in general, we want to retain all trees grown on road reserves. Then I read further into that report at 15.28.1.6.1, and one of the reasons for being able to take out a tree that people can put forward is if a tree constitutes a nuisance to adjoining landholder. And it's clearly written in there. I just hope it doesn't appear in any new tree management policy, anything like that, but it is sitting there right now. And I then evaluate that a nuisance, and then I start looking at what we have done as a council, and I speak about this in the context of our director letting us know about precedents being set, and I looked at the Lindock facility, where back in November 2023 we had 127 trees inspected, and this is all on the public record from the 17th to the 9th, 24, and the arborist report for that one identified no trees that needed removal. However, so we could proceed with development, and this is written into the report, necessitated the removal of approximately 60 trees. Now, we've had no engineers' reports on those, we've had arborist reports. And since then we've added tree numbers 8 and 12, so there's been slightly over 60 trees taken out without an engineer's report. What I'm seeking is some consistency in our approach, and at the moment we can find plenty of reasons and to take them out as a council, but then when a member of the public wants them out, they've got to jump through that many hoops and hurdles in getting engineers' reports. And I've been here for 6 years now, and I haven't seen an engineer's report. I've seen lots of arborist reports where we're told all the risks and we make the final decision, but I've yet to see an engineer's report come up from any of the reports that have come to me in just over 6 years. So I'm after a consistent approach. I looked at the Newry Bowling Club, just touching on that, back in July, 6 trees, 4 at the end of July, 2 are in good condition. All 6 trees disappeared, all in the for development. So this is where I feel for ratepayers and as much of the situation they find themselves in. And we've currently got a legacy policy that constitutes a nuisance. I won't go down the path of engineers' reports because I've had no evidence produced to me by Councillor Hearn or by Mr Barossa, but I can only fall back on the existing legacy policy and say the tree constitutes a nuisance, and this gentleman, he wants to build a fence and he doesn't want to then battle with tree roots once he gets to building a fence. So people can make up their own minds one way or another whether we support this particular person or not. I don't know sufficient about the other address at 13 Jonathan Street to make comment, but I'm more than happy to speak about 44 Angus Street, Tanunda, having been there and seen the wavy soil and lawn. So that's as far as I wish to go, and I'll leave it up to members to make their decision.
Thanks, Councillor Barrett. I'd probably only say that it's pretty hard to build a sporting complex if we left the trees there. Councillor Evans.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. This is a question for Ben, just a very quick one to clarify. So if and when these trees are removed, is it the intention of Council to replant something more suitable to that interface with roadside and residential living?
Through Mr Mayor, we'd look to replant, particularly in that location, probably another similar tree, like with the other end of this whole tree, a streetscape of a particular species, and from a diversity in the way the trees grow, they'd rather kind of be in clumps, so you don't want to have like just sporadic trees located of different species. So we'd look to replant a similar tree, which in 4 days would be somewhat of a similar size.
I understand that this is about 40 years old, is that
Yeah,
right?
about 4.
Yeah.
I think one of them's 48 and the other one's somewhat of a similar age.
So it'll be a long time before we're back to
Correct.
this. Yeah, thank you very much.
Councillor De Vries.
Thank you, Worship. Look, my concern with this is that if we are going to start to change our tree policy, I don't think this is the best way to go about it. We are, in fact, going to be exploring that soon. And if we then decide that we wish to change our approach, then at that point maybe this could be revisited. But for now, I have trouble with this. I'm also troubled by the fact that there have been comments along the lines that because we have removed trees in the past, that means that we should now remove trees going forward, which suggests then that every time we allow for trees to be removed, that sets a further precedent towards turning the Barossa into a desert, and I'm not in favour of that either. And it's starting to make me feel like I have to fight for every damn tree. Every time somebody brings one up, legitimate or not, I'll be saying no, simply because I'm frightened that if I don't, that my assent will then be used as justification for cutting down other trees going forward. I want to do this through policy. I don't believe that we should be creating a scenario where the staff are adhering to our policy, are communicating that with the community, and then as a result of them doing that, we then say, okay, we're going to change that on the fly on an ad hoc basis, which is what this feels like it is. I'm troubled by that, and I would hate to be a member of the staff going out and communicating the wishes of the council to the community if they can't trust that we are going to support them when they are supporting us. So for those reasons, I won't be supporting that at this time.
Thank you. Yes, I've been and inspected both trees when Councillor Hearn mentioned that he was going to put up this resolution, and on my first visual inspection I thought, oh yeah, there's more than one tree in Angus Street that probably should go. They're all getting a bit old and crusty, but I don't know anything about trees. It's not my area of expertise whatsoever. And then I read Mr Clark's reports and the legacy statements and thought we really do need to sit behind those policies, because that's what we are bound with our decision making. But I would like to know, Councillor Hearn, what is the urgency that those trees have to be removed now? And we do have, Mr Clark, a tree policy coming soon. When will we expect that policy? And I'm assuming that that policy is going to take in the management and replacement of our street trees. So I'd like to weigh up the urgency of this problem and the policy that we're coming. Can we wait for the policy so that we can ensure that in that policy we are capturing as much of these problems that are occurring all in one go, hopefully?
Through you, Mr Mayor. So the intention is that the policy will be, the draft policy will be presented at a workshop in November, and then from there, based on the feedback from the chamber, we would then go away, formalise that, and then present it back for adoption by council.
I've put a fair bit of thought into this whole issue. I'm a little bit like Councillor De Vries. I think it needs to be more policy driven. I'm a little bit concerned. I mean, I love how the people from the general public can hit us up, get us out to have a look at, and we can obviously feed that back to council. But I think it's dangerous when we start to make decisions like this. I'm not sure whether it's going to open a floodgate on other people coming out with their tree issues, but I'm a little bit like Councillor Schilling, where I think if we get our heads around a good policy, we can flush out the concept of getting a proper assessment done. Now, whether that be that ratepayers don't want to fork out that money, that we look at a part contribution from the council, or just exploring it so more professional eyes can be on these issues instead of a teacher and all of the other people that are in the room. I just don't think that we're the right people. We're the right people to be the conduit to get to proper decision making, but I don't think we should be the ones that are really getting trees taken out, because I think all of the stuff about Lindock and all that, that's all historical, and we need to be pretty careful about how we go about our streetscapes and replanting and revegetation and buckling concretes and the whole lot. I just think that needs to be done professionally, and if it's a cost to the ratepayer which is stopping that, well, then we need to address that more so than what we're doing right now.
Councillor Freeman.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just I really again, have struggled with this and really thought it through. And I understand your passion, Councillor Hearn, and I 100% agree with the thought of advocating and, you know, putting yourself out for people. I agree with that totally. That is what we're here for. And I just want to be clear. I know we took down trees at Lindock, but from my understanding, we've replanted 300, I think. Would that be right? Right. So I do think we're now getting, it's a bit difficult to put that comparison because we took down old trees and some not in good condition, and we are now planting 300 more specific trees that are better fit for that particular thing. So I don't really agree with bringing Lindock into that, and even Anguston, all these big. We always replace trees, and in my opinion, the staff have always replaced in abundance more than what were there before. And you know, we are a generational council. We want to grow. We just don't want old trees. We want new trees growing for the future. So that is what I see that for. And, you know, I do also agree Tanunda has got some issues in that area, but volatile soil is abundant in Tanunda. I live there, so I know, and I have got issues with all sorts of things in my garden that are not council's fault. And I do really think that we probably need to address these things as Councillor Barrett has said, in the policy, as we develop the policy, even the engineering report, like Councillor Lane said, maybe we really do need to do a deep dive, and then we can revisit this again, Councillor Hearn, after that point, if we need to. I feel like we will leave the staff out to dry, but you know, hanging out there with no policy to hang on to. So I think that it's probably a bit premature, and especially when we're bringing it back in November. And then I don't see why we can't bring it back, if need be, Councillor Hearn, then if you need to, you know, explore it more there. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, through the chair. Ben, the time frame for this, if it was going to go ahead, when's the proposed tree removal? How long will that take to happen?
Through Mr Mayor, it would just be negotiating with the consultants, could be anywhere from a couple of weeks to
A month or two?
6 weeks.
Okay.
We would just work with the consultant to the tree removal contractors to sort of do it in line with other removals, so we're sort of as efficient as we can in terms of cost to remove. We'll get them up here when they're doing some other works for us. But I would anticipate in the next, if it was to go ahead, month to 6 weeks would probably be somewhere around the mark.
Okay, thank you. And the new tree policy being released, is that quite similar and in line to the current sort of policy that we are working within that framework?
Yeah, through Mr Mayor, on the back of the discussions at the prior workshop, we've sort of based it around the, we spoke about engineering reports and those, like, so we've sort of based it around that legacy policy where when it comes to requests for removal based on damage being caused, the engineering report is what goes into to speak to that and justify that. So it's that independent review that the resident has the opportunity to provide some evidence to support that it is causing damage, because we don't claim to be the experts either. We can look at the tree and then investigate the level of risk from the tree, but that independent engineering report is what really dictates that is the damage caused by the tree or other things such as reactive soils, the weather where it's been dried right out and goes wet. There's all these things that cause soil movement that can lead to the same impacts,
Outcome, yeah.
but we don't know what those are until that report's conducted.
Okay, fabulous, thank you. And my understanding is that with these policies, everything's decided on the subjective facts and merits of every application anyway. Is that not the case? Yeah, okay, thank you.
I just might add the legacy policy I'm very familiar with, based on my previous role, and it was put in there for that specific purpose, because you'll get many, many requests, and if the people are very convinced that it is the tree root, in the past they have paid for that report, and if it's been proven that way, we reimburse, and then you're not using ratepayers' money on a whim of somebody's assumption. So be careful. Councillor Hearn, you can close the debate.
Thank you, Mayor. The discussion tonight with, here we go again. I thought I'd turned it off. Goodness me. This happens to me 40 times a week. This time it wasn't my wife. I've lost my concentration there. That's the end of it. I'm racking it up.
You're losing time for your
I've got 40 seconds to go. Thanks for the interesting debate, lots of views, and I agree with Councillor Barrett and other things. And I know we shouldn't bring things into the argument, but I think you've got to look at the overall tree policy as a whole. But ratepayers do not have a say if a tree is planted outside their home, and if it's there and it does do damage.
They do under the new act.
Oh, right. Okie doke. But, yep, okay, but simply getting an arborist who will not go there and dig up the ground and have a look, which this person in Jonathan Avenue has done. I've personally seen the roots, huge roots going towards his home, and when they did the trench, the same deal was happened, even larger roots closer to the tree, and then they must taper off when they get to the house. An engineer, I think Mr. Badras had an engineer at one stage, and he said he wasn't qualified to decide what a tree was doing. He could debate the quality of the concrete breaking up and everything else. So if he said yes, would that make a difference? So unless the roots are actually dug up to see what they're doing, you know, it's like opening a carton of something that's got nothing on the outside and deciding what's inside. So we really have gone around in circles knowing that we've got a problem, but because of our legacy policy from years ago, that we are not prepared to do anything. And as I said, over the years, we've altered many, many things. And the health of this gentleman is of prime concern to him. And this has been going on for years. And it certainly is not going to be resolved if we're going to have a policy in the future similar to the one that we've got. There needs to be some out clauses or some maybe clauses or whatever you'd like to call them at time. So if you could take that on board, Mr. Clark. But I think we've said it all. There is a problem in both of those properties, and I really believe that we should do something for these two people. Thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? The motion is lost. Item 4.1 on page 10 is the Mayor's report. Any questions? Councillor Barrett.
Just a typo at your date of 14/9. I suspect that's Maralinga, not Maralinga.
Yeah, that's right.
I have been to Maralinga. I can tell you all about it if you like. But yeah, that's right.
There was lots of jokes in there that could be. I wondered if you were typing through your glasses.
Another Scotty Milne there.
Any other questions?
Move the report be received.
Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Troop. All those in favour? Carried. Item 5.1, the Councillor's report to Council. Councillor Schilling on page 13. Any questions? You can. Thank you. And seconded Councillor Evans. All those in favour? Carried. There's a number of matters for information. Is there any questions you need clarifying out of those items? Councillor Angus.
Just a comment, Mayor, on 6.2, where we wrote to the Planning Department in March 2024, and it takes 6 months to get a reply from a bureaucrat. That's unacceptable.
I had a question regarding item 6.13, the State Development Coordination and Facilitation Bill. The first is that the links didn't work for me, so I went and found those documents elsewhere, so I just wanted to flag in case that was a problem for anyone else. I had a question, which is, did we contribute to the first round of consultation? And if so, why is everyone laughing now? Makes me very nervous when all the executives chuckle at the same
Thank you,
time.
Mr Mayor. There was none.
The government Your Say site says that the first round of consultation has been concluded and will be...
Which is the one that I'm writing on, because it was a very condensed consultation.
Right. Well, yeah, it may have been me. That's no problems. Okay. Okay, so I was concerned before, but I'm probably more concerned now if that's been the consultation. This whole thing, I went and read it, and this feels very much to me like that. Sorry, I feel like I'm screaming into the microphone. It feels like the thing where you artificially create some sort of state of emergency so that you can pass some extraordinary piece of legislation. I won't go through all of the pieces in there that really, raised a flag for me, but the idea that the state government can declare a state development area and all of the things that entails following no less than 20 days of public consultation. Oh my goodness. What an absolute Trojan horse of a piece of legislation. So I would really like to ask that we keep a really close eye on it and that we come back to council in the form of a workshop or some more fulsome examination, because if you actually look at the powers that this bill is conferring on the state government, it's extraordinary, and it would come into play with places like Concordia. So I don't know whether I've become sort of conspiratorial and crazy, but I was very, very concerned about some of the provisions that I read in that bill.
I've got a comment on one particular item, not a question, if that's permissible. In relation to item 6.5, page 147, I've just written down the note, and I said just beware of cost shifting from one government level to another government level, and I'd particularly like to thank our Sustainability Officer, Robin Ridsdale, if that can be passed on to her for the work she did in relation to that particular report. Thank you very much.
We'll move on to the debate reports. 7.1.1 is the representation review 2024-25. There's an option paper on page 313. Any questions? With a recommendation as per Councillor Angus. Move Councillor Angus and seconded Councillor De Vries. You'll speak to it. Any further comments? All those in favour? All those in favour? There we are. Carried. And against? Thank you. Item 7.1.2 is the annual closure of council office, libraries, Barossa Visitor Centre, depot over Christmas and the New Year period on page 343. Any questions? Moved Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Lane. Either one wish to speak to it? All those in favour? Carried. Corporate Services and Strategic and Innovation is the 7.2.1 is the monthly financial report as of the 30th of September 2024 on page 346. Any questions? Move Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Hearn. Either one wish to speak? Any comments? All those in favour? Carried. Councillor Greatwich.
Oh, sorry, I just had a question about the next item.
Okay,
Sorry.
all right. Next item I'll introduce is 7.2.2 is the event management policy, post-consultation draft for adoption on 349. Councillor Greatwich.
Thank you very much. Getting my policies around the right way this week. I just wanted to note that the feedback that was received really reflected the concerns that were raised with me with respect to that sense that it was a unilateral sort of decision making, and I can see the wording that has been changed. And I just wanted to clarify that this is now being put out for, will there be an opportunity for those stakeholders to provide further feedback around the wording, or have you spoken to them about whether that sufficiently addresses their concerns?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Yep. Thank you, Councillor Greatwich. No, we haven't actually gone and done any further consultation at this stage. We've just presented an alternate responsive view, as we do with our standard policy review development process. So if Council chooses to adopt the policy tonight, that is the wording that will stand.
Just comment, I'd like to thank Ms Mohan for the information she provided me in relation to the pre-event guidelines. It's been most helpful in formulating my response to this particular matter, so thank you.
I'm looking for a mover.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I'll start with a statement. It appears that a lot of the marking up of this document stems from concern about council staff having the ability to overrule and cancel events. Is there any legal, if conditions prevail and we don't cancel an event and something goes wrong, are we in any way liable if it goes ahead anyway?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the very short answer to that is it would depend on the circumstances of what happens. I would argue that that particular power, we're focusing on less than 0.001% of an item versus 99.999 of an item. We get the sensitivity of it. We've escalated it to being the two most senior people in the organisation, and you would literally be making that decision because 100 mil came down in 16 hours, like in October 2016, or COVID hit. We're not talking about a normal circumstance, or if somebody went and sprayed the ovals and did burnouts on it. Like, we're not talking the normal business here. So, but if we did allow it to go ahead with a known risk and somebody injured themselves or somebody got very unwell or died, absolutely we could be in the firing line if we knew that risk at the time and had a policy driver that allowed us to resolve the issue and didn't do it. The absolute practical reality of what we would do as officers is work with these groups if the event is in such risk to see if we can't thin it down, find an alternative, do something different. This is literally like 48 hours, 24 hours before an event. The only other alternative is I've got to bring you together. And I don't have much time to do that under the law either. So I think it's all very, very minuscule based issues that are always going to be well managed internally in any case.
I just had a question. When reading this through, I know we talked about the low, medium, high impact and significant events, but where does football and those normal sports, rugby, fit into these conditions? And are those clubs, is it built into their lease and licence that they have to remediate if use of their teams on those grounds do something to our ovals as well, please?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thank you for that question, Councillor Schilling. The answer to that is they're already providing compensatory mechanism through their licensing structure. So the settings that you've already approved under the lease licence and permit, hire permit framework already adequately compensates council and the community more generally for any damage that might be incurred, and so they're catered for in accordance with our standard levels of service. for the most part.
I would add, Mr Mayor, that we're talking about an event, not the normal course of actually providing the service.
Thank you, through the Mayor. I was just a comment in relation to the council officers statement that's raised some misunderstanding with the general public with submissions. And I was just wondering if it may be a possibility to clarify a little further, to just say that council officers at their sole discretion may cancel or vary an event approval due to unforeseen and or extenuating circumstances, or something like that, just so that the general public is aware that it would have to be an extenuating situation. And then that might just put their minds at risk and not to worry about... Pardon? At rest. Sorry, I've got risk on the brain, at rest. Apologies. You read my mind, that's right. That's all, just a, I suppose that was a question, wasn't it? To Joe. Thank
Through
you.
you, Mr Mayor, thank you for that. Councillor Evans, yes, we're happy to amend if there's further clarification that we can provide, I guess, that clarity of purpose.
Yeah.
But the intent is very much, as our CEO has highlighted, to provide us with the latitude because of the scale of events that we're now encountering on our playing surfaces. So whilst the key stakeholders that have provided the feedback are coming from our agricultural shows, the intent is always to manage some of the higher risk events and to balance the obligations that we have as officers to protect both human life and our assets in a sustainable way. So yes, we can modify that if you feel that it provides a level of clarity. We can wordsmith the document and provide some amendment in the resolution to reflect that as well.
Thank you, Joe. It was just, I suppose, not to be so broad, but then not to be too narrow. So that's all I was angling for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Are you referring to 353? And if you are, can you give me the wording, please, so that we can get it right in the resolution?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, thank you. I was reading that from a submission, so I apologise. I'll just go back and try and find the wording. Joe, do you have the wording in front of you? Pardon? Page 350, thank you. Yep.
Clause.
Ah, there we are. Thank you. Okay.
Just say to reflect
Mhm.
events will only be cancelled in exceptional and, what was it?
Due to unforeseen or extenuating circumstances. If Joe, if you're happy with that, is that okay? Thank you. I won't get into extreme weather events or anything like that. It's too narrow, but just to keep it open but directive. Due to unforeseen and or extenuating circumstances, which pretty much covers everything to a severe extent, so that the general public understands that it's not just on a whim, it's a... Yes, well, yes, you can, if that's applicable. Yes, it could. So we're not going to put a time frame in there because that's too limiting and narrow. Yes, correct. Yep. No, that... Yeah, I think that covers everything. If the executive's happy, Joe's happy with that. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I was going to second the motion that Councillor Angus had put. Yeah.
Minor alteration and, yeah, a sensible change. Thank you.
Seconded, Councillor De Vries.
I think that makes it very clear.
I just find it interesting that we're sort of leaning, as see the Chief Executive Officer and the Deputy Chief Executive Officer, if they don't cancel something and we all say, well, you should have done that, and there's a huge cost, we throw them under the bus.
That's why I'm very happy for them to have the power.
Yeah.
Councillor Drew.
Just speaking to this motion, I've had, through you, Mr Mayor, I've had experience with the staff dealing with this exact situation, and I guess it's the spirit of the motion and that it was done in complete collaboration. This is a Funday Sunday decision, and we had absolutely terrible weather conditions, and every step of the way we were in contact with the staff, and they were supportive, found alternative places for us, and I can just say that the opposite is true when something goes extremely wrong, and we know of an event that someone got struck with lightning, and that is what we want to stop happening through this motion. So I'm very much in support of it, and the rest of it was fantastic. The whole report, the whole proposal is excellent, so well done.
Thank you. Further comments? Move in a second. All those in favour? Carried. The Infrastructure and Environmental Services 7.3.1 is the Woodland Management Plan 2023 on page 385. Any questions? Councillor Greatley.
May I propose an amendment to the motion?
It's not an amendment, we haven't got a motion on the floor, so you can change whatever you think.
Sorry, I'm not understanding. Proceed.
Move it
Right.
with whatever you want to put into it, because we haven't, this is not a motion yet.
Okay, that's what
So
I
you
meant to
can
say.
make this your motion
Okay.
with your change of words.
I would like to make a change then,
It's,
if I
okay,
may, please.
yep.
I'd like to add point H, which would be to investigate the purchase of the adjacent land and return a report on the same to council. And can I speak to that, or I'm just conscious of the procedure, I don't want to... Yes. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. No, apparently not. No, thank you, John. Councillor Angus. Thank you very much. The reason for doing this, and I appreciate that some aspect of this work has been done in the past as well, I just wanted to clarify that with the report that is part of this piece of work, there was a clear recommendation in there on page 18 of that report that looked at purchasing that adjacent block as an option. And I appreciate that council has made some investigations of that in the past, but what I would like to see is a formal document that comes back to council that can be relied on for some decision making. So in case people are not aware of it, I think it's quite clear in that report about the incredible value of that small piece of land. It is the only remnant piece of colitis woodland in the entire Barossa. That's it. So once that tiny little piece of land is gone, we have lost that for all time. And I think that whilst we're in a position as an organisation to be funding the broad range of things that we fund, it's actually imperative on us to, at the same time, take protective actions towards pieces of land like this. I know it would be a budget line. I'm not suggesting that we do anything that is reckless or thoughtless, which is the motivation behind asking that an investigation be done as to what the implications would be, what the potential cost would be, is it even viable, etc., and have that brought back to council for consideration.
No, Your Worship, thank you. I think it's important. I'll just echo Councillor Gratt, which is importance of this site to protect. Thank you.
Just a question, I'm not sure who it's directed to, probably to the CEO. When we talk about investigate the purchase, what do we actually mean by that? Are we actually going to be talking to the current landholders or are we just simply getting a gut feel for the price? What exactly does that mean?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'll have to go back probably a decade to find the original work that we did on it. I think I may have sent something. Can't remember. But we did at that time contact the landowner, but we will investigate what the pros and cons are and bring back a report. If you don't want us to talk to the landowner, then we would do so. I know what the last landowner said. It was a blower.
Mm. No, I don't have a problem with that. So in moving this, we're not actually committing to the purchase, we're just simply looking at, okay, that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Before you call a vote, can I have a time frame on that? Because if it needs to be done in the next month, it ain't going to happen. In time for the 25-26 budget period or something?
We're not going to do that prior. For the next year's financial year's budget, I think would be appropriate. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, look, I fully support Councillor Greatwich's amendment or addition to that motion. It is a very, very small portion of remnant vegetation. If we can secure the piece next door, well and good, but at least we can register an interest and save it from perhaps the bulldozer potentially. Even if the fact is that, you know, people, the owners will know, you know, if that it is being watched and it is valued. I think the chances of us getting it is remote, but I think it's prudent to investigate. We spend enough on sport and recreation. We can do a bit for the environment as well.
Just a quick question for clarification. Can they actually bulldoze that land or under the Native Veg Act?
Through you, sorry.
CEO, I won't guess. CEO.
I guess the best thing is to allow us to do the investigation so that we're all properly informed before we had to take a guess.
Okay, no further comment. All those in favour? Carried. 7.3.2 is the proposed road closures for the 2025 Santos Tour Down Under on page 435.
I need to declare a material conflict of interest and leave the room. Because I'm a board director of the South Australian Tourism Commission.
Councillor Greatwich has declared a conflict and moved Councillor Hearn, seconded Councillor Evans. Either one wish to speak to it?
No, thank you. Pretty basic.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried.
To move an amendment just to remove one of the roads.
I wasn't listening.
Mayor, you don't.
Next item is 7.3.3 is the Barossa Park, Lindok Recreational Park, September 2024 update on page 437. 437, any questions? Moved Councillor De Vries, seconded Councillor Barrett. Either one wish to speak to it?
If you've ever played poker, there's a term called being pot committed. I think that's a pretty good reflection of where we are.
Councillor Barrett. Hang on, yeah, it's just the seconder first. Yep.
The only thing I'd like to say, I supported this through my election campaign. I'm not going to back out now. The only thing as I read it, it's not critical of the CEO. The choice of wording, value management process. When we start taking away $478,000 worth of stuff there, if you can find some choice of different words, I would very much appreciate it, other than value management process. Thank you.
The project industry and building industry has an interesting use of words. So I'm going to distance myself from those words, but that's what it's known as.
Yeah, I probably just need some more understanding. So all the numbers in red, that's what we're deleting off of, because there's some things on there that I'm like, are they, once they're gone? Are they being... I'm just looking at things like stone facades, removal of, deletion of trees and plants. Like, this is a temporary measure for the short period of time until we can regenerate the finance to reinstate these things, or are these things gone?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so things like barbecues, drink fountains, all the provisions are in, so they can be installed at any time when budget allows, so the electrical provisions and the water provisions are in. The stone facade, like the two, basically it is the two stone walls on the front. No, so the building still, no, the main stone on the building stays. It's the two gates have like a wing wall, if you like a small wall either side of the gates that were going to be clad in the same stone. They'll now go to a rendered type finish, which we don't think is going to materially impact it. Things around the pavers, around the tennis club and things, if you decided down the line it was required, we can upgrade those. The only one that really is, none of them you can't do later. The stone facade one probably be a little bit harder on the wing walls, but the rest of it, we've tried to provide all the provisions where we can. So things like the plantings come out, but all the irrigation's going in. So we can go and plant through some community group, working with the clubs and things to do some plantings. Once funding's available for the plants, the irrigation's already there. So we've tried to take out what we can without hamstringing ourselves that we can't do things later.
Question, if in this point in time, this is where we're at, but as we move on a little bit further, if you can find some savings, some of these things could come back in, or...
Through you, Mr Mayor, I guess that's up to at least 6 people voting for it in due course. We can tell you that, so whilst we say delete 2 of 2 barbecues, there is still a barbecue. That, a little bit of wing wall is not really sufficiently of high impact to the outcome of the development. But yes, you can put them back in. You can leave them as is, as you want. I can tell you the forecast this month went down, which is nice, and we'll continue to value manage as we go.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. 7.4.1 is the Greater Adelaide Regional Plan, the consultation on page 455. Any questions? Councillor Greatwich.
I have a question in relation to recommendation number 3, which is that seek council support in implementing the final recommendation under the Growth and Infrastructure Investment Strategy, acknowledging that council is yet to endorse the final strategy. Then if you go to page 461 and actually read through what the body of that recommendation speaks to, it's entirely in respect of Concordia. And so I would like to know whether it's possible to amend that slightly so that it doesn't refer to the whole of the Growth and Infrastructure Investment Strategy. And I think I've been quite clear about my concerns about that broader document, but I do acknowledge that it's important to have that Concordia component in there. So is it possible to just reduce the width of that wording to include Concordia?
Through you, Mr Mayor, again, I'll give the same answer. It's up to you and 5 other people. My recommendation at the moment is that it's not removed because we're trying to keep it in the face of the government as a prioritisation, because part of the growth and investment strategy also includes the character area work, which we finally got an answer about, Councillor Angus, but ultimately it's up to yourselves.
Okay. I'm happy to leave it as it is then in that case. Thank you very much.
Yep. Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Hearn, either one wish to speak to it? All those in favour? Carried. Seven point 4.2 is the Regional Public Health Plan progress update on page 517. Any questions?
As I read through it, I read about the Greater Adelaide City Wine Trail and being shelved. Is that all councils or just the Light Council is shelving it? I'm just after clarification on that point, because when I got towards the end and it mentioned that particular project, I'm just trying to clarify whether it's just the Light not doing anything in relation to that capital City Wine Trail.
Interesting question. As far as we haven't changed our position on it. And we're already having a few preliminary discussions with the Adelaide Hills Council. So.
Interesting as I read through.
Mr Mayor.
CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Barrett. To my knowledge, your assessment is correct. It's only those, but certainly with some documentation we'll present you in November, we would like to ramp that up with our new resourcing footprint that we talked to you about a couple of months ago at Council. So I reckon we'll get them back on board eventually.
So am I. I have got a mover and a seconder, have I not? No, I have. I lost my spot. Have I got a mover and a seconder? I haven't, no. I need to move Councillor Troop and second Councillor Lane. Either one wish to speak to it? All those in favour? Carried. Council, that sort of concludes our ordinary part of the meeting. We now move into a series of confidential reports to do with the Supreme Court legal case, Concordia Vision, third-party funding opportunity and the Barossa Assessment Panel follow-up matter. Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Priest. All those in favour? Carried.
Hang on. You can come back for the other one.
I've got a mover, I just want to, okay. Move councillor Priest, we go into confidence, and councillor Lane, seconded. All those in favour? Okay. So this item is to do with the
I'll talk to you in a minute.
Okay. Next item is 8.1.3, it's a third-party funding opportunity for the Barossa Park Lindok 528. Moved councillor Priest, we go into confidence, and seconded councillor Greatwich. All those in favour? Carried.
Sorry guys, you have to go again. But this won't take long, hang on a second.
Any questions?
Where do we go into confidence, Shelley?
You're all done. Oh, we do
It's on
too.
a separate-
Sorry, go. One more. See ya. You're right. Yep, ready.
Are we good? I need someone to move. We go. Councillor De Vries and Councillor Priest. All those in favour? Council, that concludes our October meeting. Our next scheduled ordinary meeting is Tuesday the 19th of November at 5:30. With that, I formally close the October meeting. Thank you for your attendance and your input.